Alright, welcome to this week's edition of Attack the Track. We are here at Auto Club Speedway in the Under Armour Chevy Silverado and going to take a few laps around here. I have changed the steering ratio to 16:1. I have not changed anything else from the stock setup. Don't really use the brakes, so not changing the front brake bias, but if you like to trail brake in later, it might help you, but I didn't change anything. Track state is 79 degrees with 29% usage. I just went to a C-fixed race and said solo race, and this is what it gave me, so it should be pretty close. Overall, the setup is loose, especially in 3 and 4 coming out of there. On the transition there, we'll go over it, but that seems to be what's giving people the most trouble. I haven't run a C-fixed race yet, but I have watched a couple of top split races. So, with that being said, we'll get into it. First, we'll go over the qualifying line and run. I'll do 2 qualifying stints to see any changes in that and how it affects it. Then we'll go over kind of short run and long run and go from there. So I have it set up to track the session optimal lap, and so we'll hopefully put down some good times. Now, I've been getting around a 40.9, a 41.0 with similar track state. So is that going to get you pole in top split? Probably not, but it should get you in the top half of the field, whatever split you're in, and go from there. I think you can possibly be a little bit faster than I am on the first lap, but it's a little too loose for me. I'm more used to driving tight setups than loose setups, so I'm going with a second lap qualifying. I would recommend as well, if you're, as soon as you get into the session, starting with your second lap, just as you're practicing, just right around the top, full throttle at this seam here, like the second seam, and just do that for several laps. It's going to feel a little bit loose, but that's generally what you can feel throughout the entire run. So if you can't comfortably, starting with the second lap, if you can't comfortably run wide open on the top, just practice that. Don't practice anything else, because it's only going to get worse from there. So we're going to run high to maximize speed out of 4 for the first qualifying run here.
41.2. That last lap was a 41.3.
I already tell you this is going to be slow. Just tell you how bad. So I'm trying to hit the very bottom, and I just carried way too much speed and wasn't anywhere close to the bottom. So this is definitely not going to be our fast lap compared to the other qualifying effort. Having to chase it up the track, which is what you'll be doing the entire run. So that was a 41.0, so I definitely think we can get the 40.9 if I can hit the bottom correctly. Just tried to drive it in a little too deep and didn't lift early enough, and it's very line sensitive for this, so you definitely want to do anything you can to get to the bottom. If it's lifting earlier or whatever, you've got to do that to maximize your exit out of 2. You should be seeing the green bar just going crazy on exit of 2 if I hit this correctly on the next one. So this will be our first lap again. So you don't have to run full out in 1. You don't have to run all the way against the wall or anything like that, because you're still going to have time to build up your speed. So you really just want to be smooth with it. Any line you run here is fine, because it's going to be maximizing out of 3 and 4 is really what's going to determine your start to your qualifying lap here. having to chase it.
was that? 41.4. You're now 0.4 off your best.
I lifted earlier to make sure that I got to the bottom. And look at that. And that's by lifting earlier. So you would think I've got to drive it in as hard as I can, but you don't. You've got to hit that bottom line. And I lost all the time in 3 and 4, but still a much better lap.
40.9.
So we got a 968, and if I'd run the 3 and 4, optimal you can see is 924. So you can definitely run fast doing that, and it doesn't get too out of whack with it either. So let's go ahead and go look at that second lap or the second qualifying effort. And first off, all right, so let's see. Coming to the first lap, we are going 180 right when we cross the line. And here we are going 181. So not only is the grip level better on your second lap because the tires have had a little bit of heat put in them, but you're also going a mile an hour faster. See if that was true on the first one. Yep, we were going 180 right as we crossed the line, and 181. So in my opinion, it is definitely a second lap qualifying. Now, with this, I want to show you something on 3 and 4. And this is on your first lap where you're going to be running high out of 3 and 4, right? So what I'm looking for here, especially because the sun, in different settings, sometimes the sun will make this a little bit harder to see, the track. And because it's loose and because you're having to chase it up, you don't want to run all the way against the wall, because if you have to chase it, you have nowhere to go, right? So what I'm doing for my fast lap here, or coming to my fast lap, is right when I get to the safer barrier, I'm starting to turn in and I'm wanting to put my left right around here. So you're going to use these markers during the race as well. But if you see this outside marker here, that's going to line you up with the second seam. And so it doesn't cut too much where you're going to be too loose and scrubbing speed or turn the truck doing it. But it's going to set you on a path where you're going to have a little bit of leeway if you have to chase the truck up, which I did. So you can see I can kind of turn it in, and I'm heading to put my lefts right on there, and I end up missing it. I'm like way wide of it. So I'm way wide, but that was what I was looking for, and then that kind of puts you right there on that seam. So if you go a little bit wide, that's fine. Don't go under it, but that puts you on that path to run this seam, and then that way you can kind of chase it up. And so I didn't hit it, but that was at least my visual marker. So, and you can see the truck's getting a little bit loose right there. So coming to the fast lap here, I don't like to go on the apron. It kind of upsets the truck, and since the truck's already light, as you go down and back up, it just kind of bounces the truck around a little bit. So I don't like to run on there during the race either. But so I just put it right there. Now I'm kind of coming to the outside of this line here, but you're going to be looking for the light, but that's where things are going to happen, but I'm not looking for the light. What I'm actually looking at is this white patch right here. I want to have my lefts above that, but pretty close to it, right? So you can, if I'm going to run the bottom, I like to have my lefts just above this white here. If I am going to be on the outside, I like to have my lefts a little bit more up here and about close to this seam coming down. So as you can see, as we're coming to it, I'm going ahead and starting to turn in, and then my lefts are going to be above that seam there. I even ran higher than what I wanted to, so I wanted to be more down here, because you're going to have the grip level to handle it this early in the run. And so my truck could already be here, which is closer to 1, so I definitely lost time by having it this far out. And the wider you are, the more loose it's going to be. You're going to be in a more tight situation here, which is kind of what you want this early in the run with this loose of a truck. So I definitely messed up and lost some time there. But coming to it, that is what I'm looking for, that spot right there. Now, as far as when to let out of the gas, let's see. It's kind of when I'm going to be coming to this beginning of the Auto Club sign. Now, obviously, my eyes aren't looking there, but right about the time I'm getting there is right when I'm letting off, right? And so you can look at it that way. You can look at it of where I'm diving down. It's right before my lefts get to this seam. Let's look and see where it was, where I let off here. So I let off I let off earlier, but I was already down too low. Did I hit this better? Yeah, no, see, I still went wide. No, I went way too late. I was looking at the wrong one. So instead of this one, see, you're coming in. Yep, see, I drove it in way too deep that first time. So this is the first run. And this shows how far you can drive it in. See, here's the first sign, and when we're just blowing past it. And then I'm almost to the second sign, and I'm down here, and that's when I start to lift. But it keeps me from getting to the bottom. Where the fast lap, I'm lifting at the first sign. See, the second one I didn't lift until I was up here, but it kept me from getting down to the bottom, and then that's what allowed me to drive on through. And then for 3 and 4, the whole backstretch, I'm keeping my lefts just above this. You want to give yourself a little bit of leeway and not be right against the wall because it's really bumpy. And again, if you need to chase it up a little bit, then you want to have that room. So I start to turn in right at the safer barrier again. And what I'm looking for right here is to go in between these marks here. So I put my rights pretty much right on that. Right on that there, heading toward the bottom. And right when I cross that seam, that's when I let up here to make sure that I hit the bottom. If sometimes I hit it a little bit better and I'm able to go all the way to the bottom before I lift. On this one I didn't. And then you just get back into the throttle as soon as you can, kind of chase it up, and then run to it. So that is the qualifying and the fast lap run, I will say. Next I'll go do a couple of laps for a long run, and you can see that. Now a long run saves the tires a little bit better, as you would expect if you drive it correctly, but all the testing that I did, the long run matches the short run at 20 laps, and then you're gaining everything past that. So if you're going to be doing a run that's longer than 20 laps, you definitely want to save tire, because you'll just blow them away for those last 10 laps, or longer than that if you're doing a league race. If it's shorter than 20 laps, then just go all out. Now, having said that, that's all solo runs. That doesn't account for anything in the draft, people being around. So I actually think that the draft is going to help the long run. So don't kill your tires. Use the draft to pull you back up what you lose, and then you'll be in a much better spot late run. And so I typically like to go for the long run. And so I plan to utilize as much draft as I can while saving as much tire as I can as well. So we'll just do a couple of laps here so you can see exactly what I'm doing. And I'm gonna go over my markers and all that stuff here in just a minute. So we'll do one more lap real quick, and then we'll do one more lap, and then we'll pit and just kind of go over some final thoughts and stuff.
Lap time was 41.7. That puts you 0.7 off your best.
if you're trying to save tires, specifically the right front, the exit of 1 is where the right front gets the hottest. So you're really going to want to focus on the exit of 1 if you're trying to save your tires. And at the 20 lap mark, when it evens out, even before that, the truck seems to drive the same. So when you're driving hard out, it continues to get a little bit looser and looser. It's weird. It gets tighter and looser at the same time. It's kind of hard to describe, but if you save, then the truck seems to drive the same throughout the run, and so not only are you faster, but you don't really have to change what you're doing as much, because it just sort of does what it's supposed to do and what you're used to it doing.
Look out for the pit speed limit.
Alright, we'll go ahead and pit.
Here we come, fellas. Stop on your mark.
Alright, so we'll go ahead and look here at our let's do this one instead. So as we're coming around, I don't really back up 1 that much, because like I said, the heat is on exit. You can back it up if you want to, though, and start lifting like around here. But what I'm doing is basically when the safety barrier is going off of my screen, that's when I'm looking to lift. Now real time, you can tell I'm actually doing it before I get there, but in my peripheral, that's right when I'm doing that. And again, you can drive it much deeper, as you saw. I mean, on the qualifying run, I was running here full throttle before I lifted. So, you know, if you've got somebody on fresh tires that's coming out and they're wanting to go, make sure you don't get run over. But if you're wanting to do long run pace, I found lifting right about here and getting all the way to the bottom is a much easier way to do it. Now, what you want to look at for exit is these markers here. Let me see here. Basically, these dark spots all around, you don't have to do anything in particular with them, but like you've got this double here and then you've got this single here. Just pay attention to where those are, right? Because if you're coming up and your rights are getting close to here, well, you're probably going to get tight and have trouble hitting the wall. If you're hanging the bottom and then you're coming out on this side and going to come up here, you're in a good spot. So just pay attention to where the truck is in relation to those markers throughout the run. And just know, if you enter lower, you're going to get tighter and you're going to slide up the track. If you have a wider angle coming in, you're going to get looser and be ready for that. Here I turn in at the safer barrier as well. I'm going to lift when I get above these. That's the lift. It's not a full lift, and you kind of come around, and then you want to be full throttle before you get to the pavement here. So just, it's a timing thing, but anywhere that you can feel that you're going to be okay and not go all the way out to the wall before there. And later in the run, you might be right at it or whatever, but expect to chase it up some. So I was still running a little bit hard here, so I may want to kind of relax on that a little bit. And if I'm really trying to save for a super long run in a league race or something, I probably wouldn't get on the throttle as hard as I did there. So I think we're going to pit on this. So let's go ahead and see. Just again, let me back this up, show you where I'm lifting here. See, right as I'm starting to pass that, that's where I'm lifting. Coming all the way down. I'm looking at these two I've got these two here and this one. That's where I'm getting back on the throttle. I'm looking. So I'm a little bit higher this time because I got on the throttle a little bit earlier, but that's fine. at this point in the run. I know I'm not going to hit the wall, but I'm definitely out wider than I was the lap before. So it's just something to pay attention to. And because I'm out wider, that means I probably burn a little bit more in my right front because I was on the gas a little bit earlier as well. Again, I lifted there on the marks, coming around. Now I went super. Okay, that wasn't the last lap. That was actually a better lap to look at overall. Again, I lift there. I get on the gas a little bit later here. See, you've got the 2 and then the 1, and I hit them somewhere in here. This one I waited a little bit longer because the lap before, remember I was on the gas here and I washed way up the track. So watch what happens. I don't get on the gas until later, and I'm running a little bit lower, and so I didn't burn my right front up as much. Saved a little bit of tire there. Turning in, lifting at the mark again. I'm back into full throttle by the time we hit the pavement. And with good tires, you can go pretty much until the line turns into the dash line. On older tires, I wouldn't go that far into it. Downshift for the engine braking and make it in plenty of time. So that's how you run it. Now, having said that, the C-Fix races that I've seen, it's all pack racing anyway, and so you're not going to be able to run the line that you want to run for a majority of the time. It looked like the outside had a little bit better draft potential, so stay on that. I wouldn't run all the way against the wall. I would pinch them and run that second lane, so definitely practice that. But when you run that second lane, you are also going to get a little bit looser. So be prepared to be chasing the truck as you go up the track, and especially later in the run. But anyway, should be fun. I plan on running the C-Fixed this week, and hopefully, if it's a good race, I'll go ahead and post it here and see if the plans work out well, or if I have to completely change everything based on the draft package and all that. But that is how I plan to attack the track here at Auto Club Speedway. Good luck.